guys, welcome back to another Are We Nerds episode with your favorite host, Emily and
Emily. You sound so enthusiastic.
I've been out all day, so I'm like,
hey guys. I know, I just got home from work and I'm like,
and now now I have to turn my big brain on because we're talking about theory and stuff.
No, I know, literally, but like, I have so much schoolwork to do, and my cohort is coming, not my cohort, some of the girls in my cohort are coming over, and we're having wine night while we're working on a project, so.
Word.
This was the only time we could film.
Yeah, but before we get into the episode, Ramadan Mubarak, everyone. Happy Lent. If you don't participate in religion, happy March.
Happy almost spring.
Happy almost spring. It's almost springtime. The hummingbirds are going to be coming back this week.
Yes.
I got to put the feeders out. No, you're good. It's a beautiful month. What's happening? St. Patrick's Day is going to come. You don't even have to be like religious or anything to have a good time during St. Patrick's Week.
Yeah, during St. Patrick's Day, I usually just get really drunk, which is ironic because it's a saint.
But we be drinking. That's the culture. That's what Americans do. We take a holiday and we drink.
Literally, though, I keep looking over here because Ken was just being really cute. I literally took a fan cam of him earlier.
Oh, God.
But,
okay, yeah.
I'm making, like, their birthday party invites because it's not going to be, like, a big birthday party or anything. It's just going to be, like, it's kind of more of, like, the gag, but I'm going to make them a cake with, like, mashed potato frosting and catnip. And also, my cats were born on 4/20. So it's going to be a day. And the only thing is because it's on Easter, like, I can't have it on 4/20, which kind of sucks. I'll have to have it like the day before, which is fine. I know. The fact that Easter is on 4/20 is crazy, but because I will be partaking in both Easter and 4/20. And so the legal stuff, by the way, guys. Georgia has legal gummies that are THC that knock Emily out. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But they're fully legal, so you know, they're fully legal. I get them at smoke shops here. Anyway, so I was making their, just FYI, so I was making their invite, and it's so funny because it's going to be like 4/20 themed, because obviously they're my 4/20 babies, my 4/20 Nekoma baby, so it's going to be like, anyway.
4/20 meets Hayaka.
Exactly, but I'm just, it's so true. It's like a holiday, all right, an excuse to drink, guys, because I'm like,
woo.
Because you know have you seen the TikTok? I sent it to you a while ago where it's like Mexicans be like, I didn't want to drink tonight, but it was my cat's birthday. That's how I feel with their birthday.
It's the loud music at 3 a.m. There may be the babies that are asleep at the party.
Literally.
On the chairs, just we're like,
I know. They're the babies, and we're gonna be like, that was so funny. Anyway, okay, yeah. I'm excited for this episode, though.
Yeah, do you want to explain what this episode is and how you came to your thoughts on why you wanted this episode and how it came about?
Yeah, so today's episode is episode 71, which is kind of crazy.
Everyone, turn on your big brain. Get your notebooks. Get a writing utensil. Get your caffeine or any alcoholic beverage if you're over the age of 21 in the United States. I don't know the age.
In other
countries.
But
you know, if you're legal, welcome to the Are We Nerds School.
Business.
This is school.
This is Are We Nerds University. We have to give ourselves more credit than just school. Like, school's great, but university. Accreditation. We have accreditation.
Yeah. It's time to learn, and we're learning today.
Yes. And so this is episode 71, and it's called One Piece and Politics. Stay with us, okay? This is Power, Corruption, and Revolution in the Grand Line is what I named this episode. So the reason that I wanted to bring up this episode is because a couple months ago during the 2024 US elections, what a grim time. It's only gotten grimmer or darker, whatever. I kept seeing like people on Reddit posting like Luffy would be pro the person in office right now, which is crazy work, especially if you read the manga and have like watched the anime. There are so many political undertones in it, and like socio-political undertones, and also just like direct references to socio-political issues. And so One Piece is not like, no, they would not do that. And so I saw that and I was like, wait, I kind of want to delve into more, because everyone in the like, not everyone, but like in the thread, the majority of people were like, are you dumb? Like, not that I think you should say, are you dumb to people when you disagree with them, but that's what it said. So I was like, oh. So then I went through and I was like, oh, let's go through like big political themes in One Piece and how they, we've seen them in history and how we might be seeing them right now. And this is really like, I'm saying a lot. Sorry, guys, my brain is like, you'll have to edit these parts out. I'm like, But this also combines two of Emily and I's passions. So anime and One Piece specifically. And for me, it's more of like the political sociological like aspect. And Emily, I would still say yours is like the political aspect, but you have some good anthro theory that we're going to talk about in here.
Yeah, I could have like went all over the place, which my notes are already kind of all over the place. And she gave us designated sections. Like there's a breakdown of like themes in One Piece that we're talking about when it comes to like the political or like the world building and like the hierarchies that are in One Piece. So I'm just gonna say butt in whenever necessary with mine.
Yeah, and same for mine.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going somewhere with that.
Oh, but the reason, like the main goal of this episode is we're gonna dive into the political world of One Piece and explore how the world of power and corruption in the series mirrors real life structures. And we're specifically going to focus on mainly the world government, the celestial dragons, and the idea of absolute justice, which is a common theme that is through the world government in One Piece. And it really is just about how the system is built in terms of when we're going to be talking about this, you'll see a lot of it is how this world government was built and how it got to be as corrupt as it is. And the real life examples to now and also the history, because there's a lot of historical examples that go with things that happened in the story. And this is just like a part of our a part of our broader goal to bring in our expertise, which is, for me, political science, Emily, anthro. We're both graduate students in our respective fields, but we're also very passionate about anime, and I think art reflects real life. And so This is a great example of that. And so we want to be able to talk about the things we love and geek out with them while also educating not only you guys, but also ourselves and learning throughout this process. So that's really what this episode is. And future episodes might be like this in the past. It's a really hard time in America right now. And it is really every day is a new challenge. And so we just want to educate ourselves, educate our audience. You know, we're nerds. That's our whole podcast name. Are we nerds? So that is what we are going to be talking about today. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I just think it's always so funny when and this was coming around like post-election results and everything too, and like inauguration, I guess, but somehow like the discourse on Twitter or just like anywhere else where people are like stop trying to make like books political, or stop trying to make shows political, especially when it came to like the Luffy stuff that people were posting about. And I was just like, first off, crazy that you're saying that about One Piece. And second, crazy that anyone's saying that about like any form of media, that like stop trying to make it political. I mean, everything is political. Politics,
Mm-hmm.
like literally, um, control your life and the people around you, um, your present and your future. So it's just like you can't have that. I mean, we all love escapism, right? We all love to
Mm-hmm.
disassociate. We're in a little fantasy world or yada yada yada, but like, uh, politics is in world building.
Yeah.
Politics is in how you live your day to day, and it's always going to influence you, even if you don't think that it does. When it comes to like
Mm-hmm.
your daily habits, and we'll speak about that too, like the theory of habitus by Pierre Bourdieu. But I just think it's so funny that people say that, because I'm just like, are we living in the
And
same planet? Are we on the same
I
world?
I think one of the reasons and I mean, you can agree with this or disagree with this, but one of the reasons that I love One Piece so much is because, yes, there is this escapism of like, these are pirates and he's made
Yeah.
out of rubber and he's like fighting other pirates, but also the world government. But it does touch on like hard topics that we'll talk about, like racism, very, very well, I would say, for the most part. And so I love One Piece because it does have that fantasy, like, anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
it has like
yeah,
that.
it's not real. It's
It's
unrealistic.
not real. I don't know. When I think of fantasy, I'm like dragons.
Oh, there's literally dragons in One Piece.
Oh yeah, there is dragons in Wano. I forget that he's
Yeah.
a dragon. Anyway, but so it's like nice because you have that escapism of like, oh my god, this is crazy, but also like, holy shit, like this is correlated to like things that are happening in real life. And I think that is something that sets One Piece apart from the other big three. More specifically, I love all the big three. I've watched all of them. We have an episode, go check that out, when I watched Naruto. But it was really cool because I was explaining this to one of my friends in my graduate cohort, and he was like, I've been wanting to watch One Piece for a while, and like your explanation, because I was breaking down like this episode and like what we were going to talk about, he was like, your explanation is like making me want to go watch it. So I think,
Yeah. Also, just
from
kudos.
another policy student. So
Also, kudos to like Oda Sensei for like just being a really good like world builder and like storyteller when it comes to like such like real complex issues. I feel like he writes it in a way where it gives like the necessary like understandings of the negatives of like humanity, but in
Yeah,
a
for sure.
way where it's like easy to understand if you have critical thinking skills, which apparently some people don't when it came to them relating Luffy would have voted for this. I'd be like, no, Luffy would have probably like beaten up whatever person and then like went and found like a sandwich or something, or like, you know, anything like that. But it's just, yeah. But let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Well, you're about to really see us like nerd out, so that'll be
I hope I make sense. But I will like to say that what I'm going to be talking about example wise, like in One Piece, is pre-time skip to what I'm most like recently aware of, because I am quite behind when it comes to the anime and the manga. So it's like episode 1 till probably like the end of Wano.
Yeah. I would say none of my stuff goes after Wano. No, that's a lie. I have one example from Egghead, but
Yeah, I've watched a little bit of Egghead.
So,
but I know,
otherwise, as long as you've seen the beginning or read the beginning of Egghead, you should be fine.
Yeah, but I know when it comes to like things happening now in the manga or like in the anime, that kind of stuff like really is like hitting on to like the whole premise and like understanding of like we're finally going to be figuring out the forgotten history type stuff, and like more of the elders and like celestial dragons, like that type of stuff. So obviously yada yada yada, like, but I can't speak on that yet, so let me speak on what I know, okay? Or what I think I know. And let's start off with the world government, power, and control, okay? So, in one piece, there are about 170 nations governing the world. They're in an alliance of sort. There's a central governing body that exerts authority through the Marines and the 5 elders. You could say that's hard power, militarization of said world. Kind of like principalities in a way, where like all these governments around the world. Think of like early Italy, early Germany. There's just a bunch of principalities everywhere. They have like their little bubbles of their kingdoms, and they're the governing bodies, and then but they're all geographically, spatially like located in that one place. But here it's the whole world. Okay, so
the way I think about it is, and I know you'll talk about this, but the Roman Empire. If you ever learned about the Roman Empire, it's giving Roman Empire.
Yeah. So, yeah, hard power through the Marines, which is basically like the international police force, international military force that has authority to do what they need to do around the world, because they're obviously trying to stop pirates, Marines versus pirates. And the 5 elders, who are in charge of this governing central government, okay? And the 5 elders, the 5 elders are celestial dragons, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The Marines, right? We got them. Let's see.
And they are, like, I've seen this argument multiple times about the Marines, where it's like the Marines aren't the world government. They're not specifically the world government, but they are the defense branch of the world government. Therefore, they follow the orders of the world government, and they're going to follow that agenda.
Like a top down.
Like you have at the top Entei, which we don't, not Entei, what the fuck, Emu. Entei's a Pokemon. You have Emu at the top, and then you got the 5 elders, celestial dragons, kings, presidents, whatever, and then like the Marines. Anyway.
And sometimes even too, like the generals or like the higher ups in the Marines are kind of like on the same level in some cases of the people that are in charge of these like smaller nations and kingdoms and whatnot. So kind of like an override sometimes, because they are under direct control of the central government. So
for sure,
both of these systems, the 5 elders and the Marines, wield power through the centralized leadership, like I said, military might, alliances with governments, while maintaining a hierarchy that benefits those at the top. They are working for the top people. Top people are in control of the whole world. An example, I'm going to be talking about like soft power, right? So not military. I
was like, can you explain what soft power is?
Yeah. I think it would be best explaining like through an example. So like one way, like kind of how the Roman Empire, the vast influence over like the Mediterranean, Africa, even Europe. One like that is the United Kingdom and the monarchical prestige. So this is like soft power through tradition and stability. So and this is another key term, but the British monarchy serves as a source of symbolic capital that reinforces the UK's like global influence. So obviously the royal family is used in diplomacy, tourism, and media to protect like British culture and continue it. Can I speak? Can I talk? Do I know words?
No. No.
I'm just totally gonna forget that. But like basically British culture in the way that like the monarchy has like lived this long, right? And the Commonwealth.
Like a figurehead.
Yeah. And the Commonwealth continues Britain's historical influence over former colonies even after decolonization. So like Australia,
India's a big one.
India's a big one. Stuff like that. So, and you could say the US too, with their soft power, because they have global influence through ideals, or used to, and values, used to. But this is so funny, but it was just like, you know, we used to have like democratic values and cultural exports.
I would argue that I think at its core, and most people in the US still have those democratic values.
Yeah.
I think we just have a administration that is currently in place that has the desire for more oligarchical power than democratic power. So I would say historically, yeah, we've leveraged our democratic values and sometimes have used our democratic values to colonize some people in like lieu of democracy. But I would argue the US and US citizens typically, besides like not talking your like hard right people, but I would say most US citizens do still hold those democratic values of wanting to make sure that people are, you know, have the right to vote and everything like that.
Yeah, so like the US promotes itself as like the leader of the free world, which is kind of ironic now because we are now on the, what was it? The human rights violation like watch list. We're on that now.
Yes, because recently, just a quick story. This actually happened, I think, Sunday. A Palestinian
Khalil.
What is his name? He is a former like graduate student from Columbia. Has an 8-month pregnant wife, by the way. He like helped lead pro-Palestinian protests, and the current administration framed that as being pro-Hamas protest. Yeah. And so they took this man, what's his name? Khalil.
His name is, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this wrong, but Mahmoud Khalil.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And they showed up, they told him that his student visa was revoked. He isn't on a student visa, he's a permanent resident. Told him that was revoked as well, took him without explanation. Lawyer asked for a warrant. I was listening to NPR this morning, the like ICE person hung up the phone on her, and like now they don't know where he is.
They've been court hopping because they're trying to find a like jurisdiction, like region where judges are not favorable in like against immigrants. So I think last time he was in Louisiana.
But then I haven't kept up with like where he currently is, but I thought they like thought he was in Louisiana, but he wasn't there.
That's the last thing I saw. Honestly, we don't even know where he is right now. But the thing is the White House has said that they didn't arrest him because he had broken the law. They arrested him because of his views were against the foreign policy of the United States. Which
directly violates
the Constitution. Yeah.
But
the First Amendment.
Anyway, so yeah, unfortunately we are there right now. But I will say again, in not in defense of the administration, absolutely not, but in like defense of America, we do have good people who are actively trying to work against it. Maybe not the Democrats in Congress, but other people.
Yeah, like a judge had ruled against that, saying that it was not constitutional for them to deport him because of
he didn't break a law.
Yeah, he didn't break law. So it's like judges are he's still losing. Like the Trump administration is still losing battles in the judicial system. Yes. Because everything that they're trying to do is literally unconstitutional. So
yeah, literally. And we pride ourselves on the Constitution. So it's like, now we have an administration who just thinks they can do whatever they please. And so thankfully, but that is why we do have checks and balances in the US, that we do have, the judicial branch, and the judicial branch is really the branch that's been like fighting against the administration, at least in power wise, because they kind of have direct power to do that. So I'm very thankful for that. So just a note, but yes, we are on the human rights watch violation thing, because that's just a tip of the iceberg.
I will say, when it comes to like soft power and like global influence in the U.S., it's kind of a lot through like media representation of us, and and obviously like people are getting U.S. news and whatever, but like there's also the like conception of what an American is through like movies and like TV shows and whatever, like reality TV. So that really helps with like global perception of what we are democratically, like government wise, and like capitalism, obviously, as a superior political economic system, right? And then obviously with our education system, don't know how that's going now, but like institutions like Harvard, MIT, like that really influences like U.S. symbolic capital in like education, but like also innovation, all that type of stuff. Like people want to come to the United States because they want to attend these schools because it has such a like huge prestige throughout academia, all that type of stuff.
And I can say that going to a school that has very prestigious academia, the number one school in Georgia. No, I'm just kidding, y'all.
The nerd school.
That is very true. We get a lot of like, I've been on calls with people and they're like, oh, you go to this school? Like, I don't know why I'm hiding. You go to Georgia Tech? Like, oh my God.
I was like, it's very easy to figure out where we go, I fear.
I know. And they're like, you go to Georgia Tech? Oh my God, that means you can do like X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, no, I can't. But thank you for doing that. But that's like the prestige thing. A lot of like international educational influence comes from these powerful institutions. But also, I want to kind of go back to what you said about media. Music, we have the biggest music industry in the world. And no matter where you go, an American artist is always going to be on those charts, because that is how big like our musical influence is. And so just wanted to say that. And
I'm just going to keep like, let me just give a quick redefinition again of like what symbolic capital like is, power, and then like state legitimacy. But so like the symbolic capital, because this is important for like other examples that we'll be talking about like in one piece, but it just it allows governments to exert power without direct military or economic coercion, which there's definitely direct military and economic coercion with the world government and like the five elders and the celestial dragons, because obviously these are like the richest people in this world, right? But without like the symbolic capital of like these figureheads, like by controlling narratives, cultural heritage, and ideological prestige, it allows them to maintain influence over others and then shape international relations. So this is why these powers for like hundreds of years are still able to have so much control over a vast majority of people that are all so different. It would be like if they were real, it would kind of be like them controlling like all of us here in the world. There's so many different cultures and types of people that it's just like how, in what power, like how are they still able to like maintain control when there's so many different like ideals and whatnot. But yeah, so Bourdieu, which I've been reading a lot about because I've been writing about him in my thesis, but great French sociologist. That man just talks. It's so annoying. It's so annoying, but I'm like, damn, you're so right with a lot of stuff.
You're like, damn it.
And it also sucks too, because it's not like he's writing this stuff in English because he's a Frenchman, or was. He's dead. But It's like French to English translation, so it's just like even worse reading about. But
oh my god.
so Bourdieu, he emphasized how governments use symbolic power, so like laws, education, media, to make their authority seem natural and legitimate, which is a definite thing when it comes to celestial dragons, right?
For sure.
Through like recognition and prestige. So symbolic capital is based on honor and reputation and status within a society or specific social field. So it often manifests through titles, awards, or social esteem. So obviously titles and social esteem of celestial dragons. We got the marine captains, the 5 elders, the 7 warlords, the 4 emperors of the sea. Obviously, those titles, when you imagine them, if I was just a pleb in the One Piece world, and they're like, "Oh my God, the celestial dragons are in our city," I'm gonna be like, "Oh," or, "Oh my God, one of the 4 emperors just landed in our harbor." Like, I'm gonna be freaking out because I'm just a normal person, and now this person's here in my little space bubble, and I'm like, shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
Like that invokes something in my heart and in my mind, right? And then we have legitimacy and misrecognition. So that emphasizes that symbolic capital works best when it's misrecognized as natural rather than seen as a form of power. The celestial dragons obviously are not seen as normal beings. They are not on the same level as a normal citizen in this world of One Piece. They are at a higher celestial power than me. To them, I would not even be worth the dirt on the floor, right? But this power hierarchy has been going on for so long in One Piece that it's just seemed as natural that if they were to show up in my city, I have to bow down, wait for them to move. Yeah. If they point at me and say, "Hey, you're my slave now," I can't question that. That's just the whole natural point. And we've seen that in Sabari arc when Zoro's just walking around and the people are like, "Girl, bow down." And he's drinking his drink and he's like, no. Bouts ruins the whole thing by fighting the celestial dragon. Obviously, Luffy with that too when Sabari, where I'm blanking on the fish dude's name, but he gets shot, right? This is one of my favorite scenes in One Piece. He gets shot, and then Luffy's like, "Oh, I gotta beat this bitch up. He shot my friend," and the guy's like, fish dude's like, No, Luffy, you can't do that. He's a celestial dragon. That's gonna be like really bad if you do that. And Luffy's like, "I don't give a fuck." And then,
that's such a good scene.
That's such a good scene. He beat him so hard it went to pencil sketch. Like,
that's some symbolism right there.
Right, but obviously, like, to other people, the legitimacy of these celestial dragons and the misrecognition of them as like a natural power instead of one that has been formed through whatever means, that obviously influences how the world spins, how the world works. And you could say so with the 5 elders and Emu behind the scenes. To them, the 5 elders may seem as the ones that are in control of this whole thing, but obviously Emu or whatever is the one in control. And then we got symbolic violence. This can perpetuate power structures through symbolic violence where dominant groups impose their values. Again, celestial dragons impose their values and legitimacy onto others, making social inequalities seem natural or justified. Slavery. There's slavery in One Piece.
Straight up slavery
in One Piece. The
like,
Celestials,
if you don't recognize that there's straight up a slave trade,
The slaves in Mary Jo. I think that's what it's called.
I fear we need to go back to history.
What's his name? His name's Kuma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bartholomew Kuma. Yeah. Girl, he was a slave. Like, slavery is in One Piece. This is symbolic violence on people throughout the world because the celestial dragons are imposing their power onto others, increasing the social inequalities between them. And yes.
Yes.
Just crazy. Okay, and then fields and symbolic struggles. So there's different social fields. We got academia, there's politics, there's arts. Those are different forms of symbolic capital. So the struggle for symbolic capital within a field determines one's authority and influence. So, example in One Piece. The Marine Buster Call on Ohara and the killing of the archaeologists and academics because they were doing research on the Void Century.
Mm-hmm.
The century is void for a purpose that the government does not want the common people to know.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, you know what, guys?
Guess we gotta kill him.
You gotta die. We gotta blow you up. We have to blow you up. And that is not the only time that the Marines have used Buster Calls to wipe out a whole civilization. And Emu too. I can't remember why, but like, or the whatever. But this, when did this person do that? Emu had like literally like Star Wars like Death Star exploded this whole nation.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what these other ones are for. I have my notes here. Bureaucracy. I wouldn't say necessarily that
I wouldn't.
the state.
Yeah.
I would say more kind of bureaucracy and standardizing and legitimizing state power. Well, if there was like kind of like a state power, but since it's kind of like
man, can we pause for a second because I don't love, but this is just such a fascinating topic for me. The state is not. I'm looking at your notes.
Yeah.
Talking about states, not bureaucracies, but the state is not a pre-given entity, but rather a historical construction that emerges through processes of centralization. That's just so fascinating because it's true. Like, how do we legitimize a state? And when we're saying a state, we must clarify, we're not talking about like a state in the United States.
Yeah, not like Georgia, state like governmental body.
Yes. Like the U.S. government is
a socio-political body.
Yes. And it's so true because how do you legitimize that? You know, we became a legit state in terms of like, we weren't given that to us. We fought the war.
I fear we need a revolution. That's the exact quotes that George Washington said. He said, I fear we need a revolution.
Exactly. And it's like, how did we gain so much power through the world? By centralization, through centralization. And that's how like the US has become such a powerful state in this world. Anyway.
Because everything is a social construct. Sometimes I blow my mind because I'll be looking at cash or something and I'm like, why did we give this, like, why does this have power over me? Or like, why is this, why is it $1? When it could be more. Like, you know, we could just start this all over again if we wanted to because everything's a social construct.
I literally had that conversation earlier. I was like, what even is money? Like, what?
What do you mean a Bitcoin? Like, what?
What do you mean that me not having money ruins my life?
What do you mean like, cryptocurrency?
Anyway.
Like, I mean, in the sense of state formation, to me, I kind of view that as a little bit smaller than what we got going on in One Piece. But if you're looking at it as like, you know, kind of just that concept, that is still true because there is the process of centralization when it comes to the power that is being imposed and created when it comes to the top of the top 1%. The top 1%. So And then obviously bureaucracy when it comes to the smaller like principalities or kingdoms and whatnot, legitimizing that them following the central government is giving power and legitimization to them by producing classifications. So obviously in the world of One Piece, there's the legal status of people. There's the nationality of people, census categories when it comes to racial and ethnic distinctions. And yeah. And then that goes into...
One Piece. She means America in like the real life.
Huh?
You said One Piece and then you said census data. I'm like, no, she means real life, guys.
And then there's the concept of habitus, which is basically just like how your daily life, like through the everyday practices that you're doing or that like your society is doing, people internalize the state's authority and then coming to see its categories, rules, and its classifications of people or like anything as natural. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it's so internalized and a habit and normal to you that it imposes, or that people sometimes impose questions because they're so deep into it where they go, why do you have to make everything political? It's like full circle back to that. I'm like, because you have to put on your lenses and see that all of this stuff, all of these categories and rules that you're following and classifications of people are what controls your life and gives you where you are in life and what you do and all that stuff. It's because of that. It's not because you chose it. You like literally have fallen into this because of the world powers that control you.
And that's not to say that these things aren't legitimate and there shouldn't be certain like regulations and like laws and things. That's not it at all.
Like you shouldn't kill people to kill people. Obviously, we have those rules.
But the whole concept of it is the fact that these things were created, these institutions were created, this everyday life was created through the governing body. That doesn't mean the governing body is wrong. I mean, a governing body is never 100% correct because I don't think anyone could ever be 100% correct. We all have our own flaws. But it's just this is just the concept of like, this is normal. In the world of One Piece, this corruption in the world government, these Buster Calls, all of these things, that is normal to them. So that's what this concept is really like touching on.
Yeah, leads to a form of doxa, where individuals unconsciously accept these state-imposed meanings and structures. So people and other individuals, like the fishmen, were there other forms of like people that were like the fishmen? I was trying to think. I was like, is it just people?
They were part of the slave trade?
Well, is it just like humans and then like fishmen? I couldn't recall if there was like
giants.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You're right. Obviously, these type of people, they're not going against. And when I say they're not going against, I'm not saying everyone in the world, because obviously we wouldn't have the story of One Piece if people were not going against these powers. But the majority of the common folk are not going against these higher ups, even though these higher ups are abusing their power through political and economic coercion and horribleness, you know?
Yep.
And then through violence, where was I going with that?
Symbolic violence.
Yeah, so symbolic violence, the internalized legitimization of social hierarchies. And then there's physical violence, coercion by law enforcement and the military, that type of stuff. So soft and hard power, again. And the state is effective because it gets people to comply not only through force, but by shaping their perception of reality.
And that, my friends, is how the world government is built and how these concepts all show and exemplify how and why the world government is seen as like a legitimate entity within the world of One Piece, and just whatever country you are a citizen of, how they become a legitimate power. So
yeah, I yapped a lot. Thank you.
Now we're gonna talk about the 5 elders.
Oligarchy.
And we're really gonna dive into the idea of the concept of oligarchies. Oligarchies, when I was younger, I'm not even gonna lie. Okay, when I was in like elementary school and we would learn about like the different forms of government, I was like, oh, a group of people like running a government, that sounds cool. And then obviously
it's just it's just a cul-de-sac or something, or like a neighborhood association. Like, oh, that seems so fun.
I know, it's like just like a group of friends, like, hey guys, but that is not what an oligarchy is.
And then you think of old Russia.
Yes. So first, I'm going to try to explain this in the most simplest terms. And I apologize if we don't explain things in very simple terms. These concepts to us are not foreign, and they're very like prevalent in our day-to-day lives because we study these concepts. So to us, it's like common tongue. Not saying that other people can't understand it. It's just in our daily vocabulary and daily language. So apologies if we don't explain it in a way that is fully.
But hopefully everyone has access to some type of device where you can pause our podcast episode if you like, and please look up these words or these concepts, because the way I have to do that for, like, I'm always looking up definitions of words because I'm reading stuff and I'm like, what the hell does this word mean?
Oh my god, especially when you're reading like old classic academia. Oh my god. The other day I was reading a philosophy paper and I was like, what in the hell are you saying?
It's stuff written like 1970. I'm like, oh god.
Exactly. And I think that's also like, this is kind of a side thing, but I also think that's kind of a weak spot in terms of the US and education. Is not making important information accessible to the general public.
Because knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, and that's why they want to suppress knowledge. Just like the world government.
Just like the world government with the void century. Oh my goodness.
Oh. Anyway, oligarchies. So the 5 elders, they control the world government at its highest level, make decisions that affect the entire world. Obviously, there's like the other aspect of it. There's Emu, but we're just specifically focusing on the 5 elders. So they're a small elite group of individuals that operate behind closed doors, and they hold immense power, but there is no transparency or accountability. So in essence, they are a form of an oligarchy. Sorry. And the simple way I would define an oligarchy is a government by the few for the few. So I'm talking like the top 1%. And I'm not saying that is happening in the US, but I am saying that we do have people in power who are not even just in a different tax bracket, like in a different tax world. Like they don't even get taxed, mind you. So it's like they can do so many things, but because of who they are and the power they hold and the influence they hold, not only in like the economic world, but in the political, social world, they have little to no consequences. For example, on January 6th, a person basically helped to lead, and not directly like, oh yeah, go do this, guys, but like in an indirect way with language, lead a mob into our US Capitol.
Insurrection.
And did all that and did really horrible things. Officers died. Like, people were scared for their lives. I remember when January 6th happened, and I was sitting in my room, and I just remember like sobbing because I was like, this is not who we are as a country. And it's like so embarrassing that that's how, like, that was on the world stage is what happened on January 6th. And so you would hope like, oh, the person who really incited this is going to get, There's
held
going to be
accountable.
repercussions,
Yeah.
and they're going to be held accountable. As you can see, this person is now in office again. So that's one example. Another example is in the US, there are strict laws, depending on state, it varies state to state, on convicted felons. And I'm not talking like state court, I'm talking superior court, right? Cannot vote. They literally cannot vote in democratic elections. Some states have changed that. Like, I think Florida passed a felons voting thing. I don't remember, but it varies state to state. However, we have someone convicted of God knows how many felonies who's in office. So that shows you kind of like
34? Could be more now.
It could be more. I don't know how many convictions he has. But anyway, like, we don't allow felons to vote on a federal level, but we allow one to be the president, because this person has a privilege that the common folk, and I don't use the common folk in a derogatory way, just like people who are literally not billionaires or millionaires. These people have privileges that we don't.
Yeah.
And so imagine these people running a government. That's basically what an oligarchy is.
And I feel like with our form of like capitalism that we have here in the United States, obviously we're not fully at like textbook oligarchy, but the political and economic like influence that like corporations have in the United States and with the elected officials, obviously, like, you know, they have their money in like these corporation stocks or like ownerships of like businesses and stuff like that. Like, obviously these big corporations have power in deciding like how our government is running or what things are being passed, what things are like not being passed in like legislation. So it's just like, it's kind of government by the few for the few, because it's like getting to a point where they're gaining so much more influence now when it comes to like these decisions that it's just like sometimes it gets to a point where people are like, is my vote even like gonna do something? Like, what are we doing here? So it's just like,
because they, even in like a democracy, although we have like democratic elections, and I would say like now it's definitely more explicit with like where we're turning in terms of an oligarchy, because we have the richest person in the world trying to completely influence the US government.
Yeah.
And has so much power, which that's like a whole constitutional, we're just not even gonna get into that, but like it's becoming more relevant in terms of now. But I would say in the past, it's like these corporations don't have the power of going into the ballot box and checking off a certain candidate's name. What they do have is the power of money.
Wait.
Yeah, okay. So right now at the White House, there are Tesla vehicles lined up for Trump, or nope, I don't want to say his name, for
that guy.
A man. And yeah, that's crazy. The White House is a car dealership, guys. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Side note.
So
our schools are playing against each other right now. Baseball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm a GSU alum, okay? It's still my school. I might go to Tech right now, but I got my undergraduate degree from State University. Go Panthers.
Go Theirs.
GSU. Go Theirs. Anyway, so like now it's becoming more of an explicit like oligarchy. I still wouldn't say we're 100% at textbook, but we're getting there. But
yeah,
in the past,
it's
like,
definitely like not for the few, because obviously there's different levels of government here in the United States, from the federal to level to local. It's just too much. That's a lot of people governing a lot of things that it wouldn't be that. But with the influence of the few that are like influencing what's being pushed, what's being talked about.
Yeah.
And
that's what
essence
I'm saying
of
about
it.
like about like how, yes, it's more prevalent now, but in the past, these giant corporations, no, they don't have the power of going in for an individual and checking off a certain candidate that they want to win. They don't have that power. What they do have is the power of money. And what does money do?
Money
It buys
talks.
advertisements. That buys advertisements. It buys like advertisements not only in traditional media like radio and newspapers, but on television. These ads, the more ads you see, you're gonna get influenced. And that all of that money for these campaigns, and not for every campaign. I know AOC has like a completely people funded campaign, but they're funded by these PACs. And so they have an indirect influence because they are paying these people who they want to get elected. They are giving their campaigns X amount of dollars, money that like most of us can't even ever fathom having, just to push a thing. So no, they are not directly going into the voting booth and checking whatever candidate they want, but they are indirectly influencing through money and through marketing.
It's kind of like, hey, if you try to like do this thing that would really benefit my company, like, and sometimes, you know, stuff like this is illegal through like gift giving, mm-hmm. gift receiving. Obviously,
yeah, there is a cap.
Yeah, there's obviously laws against that, which, you know, haven't stopped that one Justice. What's his face? This was also one of the issues with South Korea's first lady, where she was receiving gifts for stuff. So that type of stuff where it's like, hey, if you do this thing that would like really benefit my company, we'll donate money to your campaign.
Opposite. If you stand against this thing, we will fund your opponent.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's like,
it's just, anyway, it's like, damn. And yeah, so a real life, I think we kind of have like the real life parallels now here in the US, but a real life, well, like a real life parallel that is a traditional oligarchy mm-hmm. would be South Africa during the apartheid. So like South Africa's apartheid regime, the five elders represent a ruling class that maintains control through discriminatory policies, exploiting the majority for their own benefit. That's what an oligarchy is. That's what the five elders encompass. Yeah. Oligarchies are not good. They're really bad.
No. Selfish.
No. They are selfish.
Well, government is not selfish, though.
But the thing is like, people are inherently selfish. Individuals are inherently selfish. You want to do what's best for you. And at the same time, like, you can say, I want to do what's best for other people. And I do think that reigns true. But everything has consequences. And things have indirect consequences that you may not even be able to anticipate that indirectly harm someone else. So, like, in terms of government, wait, what was the point you made? I just totally like.
I said what form of government is like not selfish?
Oh yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like every form of government is inherently selfish, because even if you want to help people, and I do think like people in their good of hearts, some people really do want to help people, there are still going to be unintended consequences, which is my job to stop those unintended consequences. That will affect other people in a negative way, but might benefit you. So I don't know. Every government is selfish, but it's selfish because it's run by flawed, selfish humans. And we're all, in my opinion, and, you know, we can have a discourse about this, but in my opinion, we're all flawed and selfish. Not selfish, and I mean, more selfish. Some are more selfish than others. But I think we all do have like a sense of selfishness within ourselves.
Correct. And anyway. I totally forgot to bring this up when it came to like symbolism in like my first half of the talk, when it came to like symbolic power and soft and hard power and that type of stuff. But like one way that that was like a really symbolic call against the mistreatment and like injustices of the world government was obviously during Ennis Lobby when Usopp shoots down the world government flag under Luffy's orders. Obviously, that's a declaration of war. So that's just in like one way where people do have the power to go against, and people do have the means and like the ability to go against these injustices and like these governments that are not working for the people. So there's one example in there because they're just cool like that. Sniper King or whatever. It's cool like that.
What's his name? Oh God. Anyway.
So now we have the absolute justice and religious overtones in this, which it kind of goes into, I would say, kind of like early, not like early Catholic Church, like when it just became a thing, but like I'm talking about like medieval Catholic Church when it comes into absolute justice and like religious overtones, because obviously the world government adopts a rigid stance on absolute justice. Belief that eliminating perceived threats to their power justifies any means necessary. So obviously the big Buster calls, Emu blowing up this nation or whatever. And like this mindset obviously has eerie religious overtones because the celestial dragons refer to themselves as saints, and any dissent against their thinking or going against any of their thoughts on how the world should work is considered a sin.
Yeah.
So, obviously, like we said, the Buster Call, the destruction of Ohara, obviously the scholars were investigating the truth about the Void Century. They were deemed a threat, so they went boom boom, they went bye-bye. Because it was gonna... I don't know if, like, in the manga yet it's, like, really said. I think it's all still, like, kind of, like, theoretical on, like, what the Void Century was. And, like, obviously we know of some, like, some characters back then of, like, who was involved in the time of the Void Century. But obviously I can't, like, really speak much on it. But other examples was during Egghead, ordered a Buster Call to get rid of the 3 singular people who posed a threat to the world government. So they said, dang, you gotta go.
No, not only you gotta go, the whole island gotta go.
Island's gotta go, because this is like your home base, girl.
It's okay because it's okay that we're killing all these people because at the end it's gonna protect our government.
Yeah.
And our power.
Yeah. You can't have these tools here that like you've been using to make things for us, but since you've kind of turned against us now, everything's gotta go. You gotta go. Your home's gotta go. Your science stuff's gotta go. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Time to go boom boom. So, like, obviously that is their sin because they're going against the higher-ups. Real life parallels, the suppression of dissident.
Dissident?
Oh my god. Dissent.
Dissent?
I'm not reading. Hello? Hello?
I was like,
no, I don't know either. I just wait, hello? So it's because I read that and then I combined incident.
That's so funny.
That's how ADHD mind works. You just see 2 words and you're just like, let me just...
No, I do that all the time.
So, this incident mirrors how authoritarian governments throughout history have suppressed dissent, whether through censorship, imprisonment, or outright violence to maintain power. It's Tiananmen
Square.
Huh?
Tiananmen Square? Tiananmen? Y'all know that infamous picture of that one person in China dissenting against the government, everything that was happening, and then that one big tank was about to like run him over.
Yes.
Infamous photo. We'll insert a picture of this photo here.
like student-led protest, right? 1989 China. Obviously, this clash between the authoritarian regime and these people that were protesting them is a very famous example, a very like eerie example of what people have to do to go against these bad guys.
It's genuinely inspiring. Like the fact that these people are going against these huge, powerful entities because they know that that's what's right.
The Haitian Revolution, another example. Any slave uprisings would be examples. Obviously, what in South Korea when the president, what's his face, was like martial law, and then the people were like, "Oh hell no!" And then that one representative lady had the gun facing her, and she's like, "What are you gonna do? What are you trying to do with that? What are you trying to do with that?" And the guy's like, Obviously, I was like, "Wow, she's so cool."
She's so cool.
I know. I would not do that in that situation.
Like literally climbing over the fences of like the parliament where they got
breaking
like,
in.
Whatever. Yeah, and I'm like, this is the energy we need. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, did you see that the Philippines' former president was arrested? Did you see the edit I sent of it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Let me play it for you guys.
What fucking cat is behind me?
Let me play it for you.
Hi, Kenma. Look, he like can't even sit well. Kenma, what song?
I was like,
Kenma,
wow.
what are you?
Talk about copyright. Were we talking about the Celestial Dragons? Is that you next?
Yeah, but I kind of already talked about it.
Yeah, they're the top 1%.
So I'm gonna skip that part. We can just talk about like discrimination.
Yeah. I had written a paper on One Piece and racism that was shown. And I have no idea what happened to that paper. I tried looking for it because I was like, oh, I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to bring up what I said in that paper because I kind of cooked. Can't find it. So guys just know that for that assignment, I cooked.
I ate.
Yeah. Left no crumbs. Obviously, discrimination is deeply embedded in the hierarchy of the world government. The celestial dragons enslave non-celestial beings, particularly the fishmen, because, you know, they're strong. But obviously, they imprison and enslave humans and other beings, too. Simply because they have the authority to do so. Because they're like, who's going to tell me no? Literally, who's going to tell me no? That's kind of
literally
the whole thing. Especially with the... and obviously, people oppose it. Because, like, who wants to be a slave? But these higher beings in this world, and then realistically in our world, back in the day, U.S. government and other governments around the world, slavery was a thing here, if no one knows, which would be crazy if no one knew that slavery didn't exist here in the United States.
Well, they are trying to...
But I can't be shocked.
Censor that. So, recently, this is more state government, but Georgia residents, there was a bill. It died because it didn't make it to the floor, but keep an eye out on it because they might put in that language into another bill. SB 120 was trying to get rid of DEI initiatives, but it also like prohibited the talk about slavery, which is like not funny. But anyway, that didn't pass. But
because their thing was like it makes because they're like learning this type of stuff now makes people feel bad.
Yes.
It's like
good. You're supposed to feel obviously you can't carry that whole burden because you didn't do these things, like your ancestors did these things, but it's about like learning what your ancestors did and like getting better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
learning what not to do because it shouldn't have been done in the first place because it's a civil and human rights issue. What?
I gotta get my charger. Sorry.
Oh.
My computer's back.
And in the world of One Piece, the black market is obviously where the most heinous forms of discrimination take place with certain races, primarily the fishmen being sold into slavery the government turns a blind eye to this practice as it benefits the ruling elite. So,
yep. I mean, literally that one celestial dragon in Sabadi, not even just the fishman, he wanted to enslave a princess, the mermaid princess from the Fishman Island. I guess she is a fishman. She's a mermaid. But like,
you will be mine.
She was a princess.
Because I said so. And they're all ugly.
They're literally, can I like literally just to know, I don't think bullying is right. Obviously bullying is wrong. But sometimes like a lot of these people who have insane power, and like, I'm just saying, not even just in real life, but in One Piece, but also in real life, are like so ugly. Like physically and on the inside. So there's like no redeeming qualities.
It's so like, damn, what are we doing here, guys?
Like, pick a struggle.
Okay.
Anyway.
Obviously, Sabadi, Straw Hat's intervention in the slave trade highlights the complexity of justice in One Piece. Although they were acting out of moral righteousness, they were deemed enemies by the Marines, demonstrating how those in power protect their own interests rather than serve true justice. So,
yes.
Because for them, they need slavery to make the world go round. They need that to make their world go round. So, it's like, it'd be like that. That's them.
And we have some episode references that are great. So episode 391, I don't exactly remember what that episode is. I think that episode showed the slave trade. Like the first time we saw the slave trade happening in Sabadi was episode 391. Episode 396 is one of the best episodes of One Piece ever. It's when Luffy punches the celestial dragon. And episode 545 is the Fishman Queen's death. And she was murdered, right? She was murdered.
Yeah, she was assassinated by the fishmen, the ones that were like, we don't want to be part of we don't want our government to be involved with people. Which, like, kind of valid because, or like, not be involved with the world government. Because obviously, like, how they treat fishermen. Yeah, so it's like valid, but it's like, dang, we killed the queen. she was just trying to speak up for what was right. Yeah, 391. It's titled "Tyranny: The Rulers of Sabadi, the Celestial Dragons." So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's just pretty much it for
I feel like we've already talked about all of like the discrimination.
Is the world government truly evil? Yeah. Hell yeah. Like.
So yeah, I wanted to like end on this discussion. We're gonna have a discussion, guys. I feel like I'm in class. Like, yeah, so while reading the readings, I thought about this, and this is like something I want to present. Like, it's literally how I feel right now. Anyway, there is this debate, and I'm gonna actually link I'll send the Reddit thread and where I saw this. But one key debate that rises when talking about One Piece, the world of One Piece, and like the nature of the world government is the world government truly evil? And people usually point to individuals like Kobe and Garp, who are presented, even from like Oda Sensei, as good people with strong moral codes. And so people are like, is the world government as a whole truly evil, or is it just like the five elders? And I think this brings up a good question is, can an institution be judged by its actions of its leaders, or should we separate individuals from the systems they serve? And so it's like, what? That's like, a great question, right?
Yeah, I was like, I have thoughts on that.
And then it's really like distinguishing the celestial dragons from the rest. And just quickly, like my take on it so you can like have some thoughts, because I feel like things I'm going to say, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. So it is very crucial to recognize that much of the corruption and cruelty associated with the world government does come from the celestial dragons, who operate at the top of the hierarchy. However, the Marines are the outward face of the government, and they serve to enforce its laws that they implement. That doesn't mean these individuals are inherently evil, and they work within the system to uphold justice in their own way, despite the flaws in institutions they serve. And and I kind of think about this like the police. I don't think in like the US, I don't think every single police officer is inherently, as an individual, a bad person. Where I think there is like a certain, I don't know, there's kind of this gray area for me, because I do think that if you are a part of like working for these institutions that are so corrupt, you are not, hopefully, like unaware of the corruption that is going on in these institutions. And it feels like there's a sense of ignorance, like willful ignorance, though. It's not like they're ignorant as if they've never seen it. It's willful. It's like, I'm going to serve this corrupt system because I want to, you know, make it better. But what do you have to do to get to make it better? And how, yeah. So, yeah.
I think, obviously, when it comes to the question of can an institution be judged by the actions of its leaders, or should we separate individuals from the system they serve? To me, if you know that you're in control of an organization, or in this case, like you're in charge of the Marines, if you know that you're in that position, the actions that you're doing and the rules and the ideals that you're imposing or supposed to impose, like if you're doing bad things, or if your government's or if your organization's doing bad things and you know about it as a leader and you're not taking initiative to change such negative aspects of it, then yeah, you should be held accountable of
that's
that.
Willful ignorance.
Yeah.
You're willfully ignorant to what's happening. You're not ignorant in terms of like what is happening, but you're choosing to turn a blind eye to it. Yes. And how does that in any way make you a better individual than the people who are at the top leading these systems?
Yeah, and it's just like, and as the leader, you should take initiative to reform such issues, or to get rid of such people that are going against your company's ideals. Are the ideals and whatnot of the Marines inherently good? That's the question, because their boss or bosses are the Celestial Dragons, the Five Elders, and Emu. So it's like, to that point, when it comes to the separate individuals in the system, the Marines are such a big branch and part of the system that obviously you can't have everyone be an ideal, morally good person. So you do have some few, you have some that are neutral, and then you have some that are like basically acting like pirates, but they have the protective title of Marines, that obviously what they're doing, they're not going to get in such trouble unless you have a morally good leader like how GARP is. Because to them, obviously in the military, you have your branches, but then you have like generals and colonels and, you know, all that type of stuff. So it's just like literally like a hierarchy that just like trickles down. So you're going to have people and the captains in charge of whatnot, and their people, their group of people. So it just depends on like who it is.
Also though, like with GARP, I mean, I think we've seen it with like Ace's death. Like he didn't really do much.
Yeah.
Anything at all. And so, and he justified that by saying this is like the protection of the system. So it's like they're still like institutionalist is kind of like what GARP gives. It's like he knows that things that are being done are wrong, but the institution has always been like this, so we're going to do it in the best way we can. And that's where I think like there's also, I say this from like a government perspective in terms of working for the government. I don't think that every single person who works for the government is inherently evil. Like, that's just not true to me. However, and like some of these people are actively working to make change and like to do other things, and our system is built in a way where that is possible for people to make good change, for people to cause good trouble, as our former Congressman John Lewis would say. But there is, I feel like there is an importance for when you're working for these organizations that you know has these flaws, to recognize those flaws and also still be willing to speak out against them. Because I don't know, and I mean, maybe it's different because we are supposed to be a democracy and supposed to have the voice of dissent with the First Amendment, but it's like,
well, it just
being
I mean,
oh no, go ahead.
It just goes to like obviously like the beginnings of the United States, how we were able to become a country, is because we saw the British monarchy and how they were doing all the shit to us. We were like, that is not cool. That is so not fly. Like, we need to change something. So, obviously, the American Revolution happened. I think in the world of One Piece, I think some of these people understand that the people in charge are not good people, because they do, in the Marines, there have been cases where they're not doing what's best for the like certain societies or governments in the not the United States, what the heck. Imagine the United States in the world of One Piece.
God.
Where, you know, they are like pillaging or like villages, or like they are like beating up civilians. They are doing like things that they shouldn't against civilians, because technically they have the right, or they're supposed to be protecting these people. But they have so much, or they have a certain amount of authority to where like they're not going to get in trouble for that. So I think that in the case of like leaders understand that they're in charge of these people, and then like they need to make sure that everyone's like being morally like good to the people that they're supposed to be protecting. Obviously, that's not the case in the world of One Piece. So then it goes to, okay, well, and like what you were saying, what initiative are the people that are working for this organization going to take if they understand and know that the leaders in the top 1% is not working, is not the like way that it's supposed to be? What are you going to do about it? So it's like, you can't be, and for them, like, you can no longer be stuck in the square or the box that you put yourself in and be restricted by these social, like, understandings of what your position is. If you, like, because at that point, if leadership is failing, that type of stuff is invalid.
Yeah.
Out of the case. No longer part of this whole thing. So it's like, what are you and your people going to do? The Marines, I think at this point, are not there yet as a whole. I think there are some individuals that are starting to understand, like Kobe. He's done some things. Sure. He's done some stuff as a Marine where are kind of against the whole, you know, like, you shouldn't be colluding with pirates, or you shouldn't be helping pirates in this case, or whatever. Yeah. So it's just like,
for sure, yeah.
And when are we going to take over the world government? Like,
yeah, that's why I like compare it to the police system here in the U.S. The police are built to protect people, but however, it as a system is corrupt, but it's not corrupt because it was built on social norms that were acceptable at the time. But now that as we further, like, you know, lived, we understand that it is not acceptable now. But these systems were built on that foundation, that initial foundation, which is how, like, these social constructs and these ideals carry over. And so, like, when I say I think of this as like the police, I don't think every cop is inherently bad, but the system itself is broken because it was built broken.
because the social structures that influence like what people in these systems think inherently or unconsciously. Obviously, issues of like racial inequality, and not even just like racial, but like class inequality as well, and like social inequalities and like all those type of hierarchies and understandings of like what people think about other races impact people's choices of what they're going to do and what they think. What's the word? Like what you think of people. Like prejudices against and stereotypes against people. I was like, what's the word? What's the word? Like those really influence like how you view people and like how you would like act in such cases. That's obviously why a lot of the issues when it came to what cops did against like Black communities, there's a higher incarceration of Black and African American people and other people of color here in the United States for like crimes that are like petty crimes in my view. There's a higher incarceration. Like our justice system here is inherently racist. So it's just like people like really like overall the system and technically like the definition of what the police are is not inherently bad, but sometimes there are people in these systems that are influenced by such things that their choices rot the whole system.
Exactly.
Like one bad apple in a barrel can ruin all the apples. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's basically like a very good explanation. And so I think like the question to like leave this episode off, I have something written in there, but I'm actually like changing it up. Like I just want to leave off with the question for you to think is, what is truly justice? Justice does vary, in my opinion, person to person. What is true justice? What is true peace? And what are you going to do to help your community, not even just like the government, your country, your community, to make it a better place and to fight against these inherently corrupt systems that have been in place for X amount of years? What are you going to do to change that?
Comment down below.
Comment down below. So, yes.
I hope this all made sense. We're gonna be doing a lot of things. This is gonna be coming up. We're gonna be in DC, so I'm trying to like edit and pop this video out. Like, hopefully it'll be out when we're already up in DC. So,
hopefully I make a thumbnail.
Yeah. Oh wait, do we need to pose real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Yes, thank you. Like and subscribe. I hope this was very informative. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts on these categories that we had. I know we yapped a lot. This is a long video, but you know, it was enjoyable. It was a ride. We're learning. You're learning. We all love One Piece, and it's way deeper than just a rubber pirate man on a boat in water.
And it's going to be shorter once you edit it, because we did kind of have like side tangents that weren't even like
definitely gonna be over an hour, but an enjoyable, educative hour. It's not even a word. I don't even know at this point.
Welcome to Are We Nerds University. You're getting a bachelor's in, I don't know.
We should like run a class on One Piece. This could be.
Oop, my friend just got off the MARTA station.
An anime weekend panel. Anyways. Yes, love y'all. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow our other socials, and we'll see y'all later. Hopefully the next video is going to be our DC vlog. Bye.
Bye.